Hi, Rain City. It's your friend Scott here in my studio, still under construction in Austin, Texas. I want to start off our time together by reading you a poem, and this is by 8th century Sufi mystic named Rabia of Basra, and it's called It Works. Would you come if someone called you by the wrong name? I wept because for years he did not enter my arms. Then one night I was told a secret. Perhaps the name you call God is not really his. Maybe it is just an alias. I thought about this and came up with a pet name for my beloved I'd never mentioned to others. All I can say is, it works. I love this poem. I think it's really magical and wonderful. And I love it because it alludes to having a secret life with God, having a secret conversation with God. My wife, Holly, we've been married 15 years, and we have conversations that nobody else knows about. We have conversations that we never talk about with other people because we have this secret life together. There's an outward-facing life that other people see, but we have this secret life, this intimate conversation that's happening. And I actually think when we see Jesus talk about prayer and talk about talking with God in Matthew 6, he says, don't be like everybody else who just does these long, wordy prayers in front of everybody. There's a reward for that. But he's like, when you pray, go into a closet, go into a hidden spot, go into a secret place and have a secret conversation with God. And the God who sees you in secret will reward you. There is a reward for a secret conversation. And I want to talk about what an aspect of that reward is. We're introducing a new practice, which is centering. And the practices aligned with that are solitude and silence. And when we look to Jesus as our model, we see plenty of times where he gets away and goes into solitude and silence. Times where he's teaching and stuff, and then he leaves and he goes off on his own into the mountains to pray. But we see it right at the beginning of his ministry in Matthew 4, in this passage. Matthew 4:1 says, "Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil." And then all this stuff happens. And 16 verses later, in verse 17, from that time on, Jesus began to preach, "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven has come." Wilderness is getting away from culture and society. It can be the woods, it can be the desert, it can be going out into a place where you're alone or away from everything, that it has all these narratives. And yeah, there are times in our lives where we're like, I need a vacation, I need to go that direction. But also there is another aspect of the wilderness where you feel yourself pushed to, where you feel yourself being led to. Like, I just need to get away. I need to get by myself. I need to go away from all this and get alone. What's interesting though is that we are a culture that is deathly afraid of the silence and solitude that we find in the wilderness. We moved to Austin a few months ago, and a lot of things are closed down, but we've been able to get out in nature. And one thing I found, and Austin's a big city, it's like over 1 million people. One thing I found in all the nature spots is, one, it's really hard to find a spot where there's out people, but also everybody brings a boombox with them. Has this been your experience? Going into the woods or something, and you're like, oh, finally some silence, and then somebody has some really crappy playlist that they're just playing, and you're like, what? And I get it, like you want to, have a vibe and a whole thing. But I think underneath that all is that we're actually a culture that is really afraid of silence. We're really afraid of solitude. Even if you don't have a boombox or like a little Bluetooth speaker, you still probably brought your phone. You still probably look at it. You ever go to the bathroom and you forgot your phone and you're in the bathroom, you're like, I forgot my phone. What am I supposed to do in the bathroom without my phone? We don't really know how to sit with ourselves and be alone and be in silence. It's something we're afraid of. And the fear comes because what we're going to address is the internal poverty that we'll find in those spaces. The function of the wilderness is to interact with silence and solitude. So let's talk about what silence and solitude can offer us. In prayer, we often interact with God with our words and our sentences and our paragraphs. And it becomes this rhythm of constantly drawing from and offering something to the conversation. And if we're always drawing and always drawing and always drawing from, eventually we find that our words and our language seems to be dry and barren of the meaning that we're trying to bring to the conversation. To be silent, to be alone, is the very act of being poured into instead of being drawn from. The move from activity to inactivity, from doing to just being, is to allow the wellspring of life to fill the wellspring in which you draw from. You can only give from what you've been given. So to be silent is to allow yourself to be given. The reason Jesus invites us to go to a closet or a hidden space, a place that we're alone, is because what happens when we're alone is the only thing we can do is be honest. And that sounds easy, but honesty is actually a very difficult thing to get to. A lot of times we can feel really afraid. I've heard people say like, I can't believe I said that to God. You know, like we're afraid of actually saying very honest things. And it's not that God isn't aware of what is already inside of us. We're just not aware of what's inside of us. And so solitude allows us to get in touch with what's really inside of us. And then honesty becomes the doorway to hear the voice of God. The honesty about what you're afraid of. The honesty about what you hope for and dream for. The honesty of your doubt. The honesty of your dwindling faith. The honesty of your aspirations and loves. The honesty about God, and the honesty about the world, and the honesty about the life you're finding yourself in right now. And when we hear the voice of God, we're listening for the voice of God, we're listening to the voice of love. And love is always going to lead us to our truest self. Your deep self, your beloved self, that true self in you, not the self that is trying to figure out how to be loved through accomplishment, success, beauty, perfection, fame, celebrity, all of the things that we think if I had that, then I'll be worthy of love. The true self that understands without having to do anything, you are in essence already loved. That is where love takes us. Solitude is not being by yourself. Solitude is being introduced to your true self. And to know your true self is to begin to know what your vocation is in the world. I love the word vocation because vocation is rooted in the word vox, which is voice. And that tells us that actually finding our vocation isn't setting upon something that I think I should do that or want to do. It's about listening to a voice about who you are and how you do who you are in the world should look like. I don't set upon telling my life what it's going to be. I listen to my life. I listen to what it's telling me that who I am and what it should be in the world. I'm listening to the giver of my life telling me who I am and what I should do in the world. And this is the conversation that happens in the wilderness. This is the centering work that leads us to our deepest vocational calling. And there's a lot of things that happen to Jesus in the desert with the temptations and stuff, but we can see Jesus being led by the Spirit into the desert, and then he comes out, and what happens when he comes out of the wilderness is he begins his vocational calling. This is the reward of a secret conversation. This is the reward of the wilderness, is that you attune and center yourself to what your vocation is in the world. The season that we find ourselves in has really de-centered us from the rhythms and practices, the normalcy of life that we actually found a lot of our identity in. And it's left us floundering. Like we were like, I don't know who I am anymore. My job went away, my tour, my schedule went away, all the things we used to do, the way that I understood myself, it all went away. And what happens is the conversation is often like, when are things gonna go back to normal? And another way of saying is like, when can I go back to that old identity? And one of the things that we have to realize is that that identity died months ago. It's never coming back. What we need is to go into a secret place, into a secret conversation, with a name that we've given to God that we've never told anybody. And we need to go into the wilderness of that secret conversation in silence and solitude to be filled up instead of always having to draw from, and to listen and to let our lives speak, to hear the giver of our lives tell us and recenter us on who we are and how we are to live now. This practice of centering in silence and solitude is more important than ever in this season of lost identity. So some group questions. What was the last time or significant time that you remember that you got away from it all? And in retrospect now, like, what would you say the fruit of that time was? Like, what happened to you as you went away, you got alone, and you listened? Next question is, in what ways would you like to do that now? What are the ways that you would like to get away or practice silence and solitude now? Some of us we're not able to get childcare or things like that. Some of us are stuck at home and can't get away. But what do you find yourself longing for in that kind of, man, I need to get away. I just need to get away from a while. What is that? Can you describe that? What does that look like? And the final question is what small steps do you think you could take to provide time for silence and solitude in your life right now? What things can you imagine that could look like? For example, you might not be able to go into the woods, but could you start every day maybe taking 10 minutes to walk through your neighborhood? If you're working at home or things, could you just be like, hey, I need 20 minutes and just go out. Don't bring your phone, or bring your phone, but put it on silent. Do not disturb. Just go out. Don't listen to anything. Just walk around and go, this is a bit of wilderness I can have. This is some time to be alone. What simple ways can you do that? May you hear the voice of love, and may that lead you and center you into the vocational life you're longing for.
When my heart is weary, when my soul is weak, when it seems I can't traverse the trail before me, I survey the glory of your agony, and I find the will to fight for what's before me. 'Cause you ran the race, enduring for your glory. I fix fix my eyes on you, the founder and the finisher of my faith. I fix my eyes on you, the solace in your suffering is my strength. As I fight to follow, you're my righteous guide, and you train me to delight in all that's holy. In my broken body, you're my crooked stride. Throw off every weight and sin that clings so closely. I will run the race, enduring for your glory. I fix my eyes on you, the founder and the finisher of our faith. I fix my eyes on you, the solace in your suffering is my strength. You help me breathe, you're the only life I need. You died for me, you're the only life I need. You help me breathe, you're the only life I need. You died for me.